Once upon a time, the diesel engine was the greatest machine humanity ever built. It was simple, it was efficient, and it was immortal. You could run it on dirty fuel, neglect the oil changes, and it would still pull a house down and run for 1,000,000 miles. But if you walk into a dealership today and spend $90,000 on a modern diesel truck, you are not buying a legend. You are buying a chemical processing plant on wheels. You are buying a machine that is legally required to choke itself to death. You are buying a fuel system that can explode and cause $15,000 in damage if you use the wrong gas station. And mathematically, you are buying a truck that will never, ever pay for itself. Today, I am going to break down the engineering disaster of the modern diesel engine, expose the EPA emissions scam that ruined them, and show you why the smartest truck buyers in America are switching back to gas. To understand why new trucks break, we have to look at the history. The death of the diesel began in 2007. This is when the EPA introduced strict limits on nitrogen oxide and particulate matter. Old diesels produced black smoke. That smoke is soot. It looks cool to some people, but it's bad for the air. So manufacturers had to invent a way to trap that smoke. They invented the DPF, the Diesel Particulate Filter. Think of this as a giant ceramic sponge in your exhaust pipe. It catches the smoke, but eventually a sponge gets full. So how do you clean it? You burn it. The truck dumps raw diesel fuel into the exhaust to heat the filter to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is called regen. So you are literally wasting fuel to clean your exhaust. But it gets worse. In 2010, they added SCR, selective catalytic reduction. This requires a separate tank of urea fluid called DEF. It has its own pump, its own heater, its own injectors, and its own sensors. If any of these sensors fail, the EPA forces the truck into limp mode. Your $90,000 truck becomes a 5-mile-per-hour brick. Not because the engine is broken, but because a $50 emission sensor failed. This system added complexity, weight, and failure points. It turned a simple engine into a nightmare. But emissions aren't the only problem. Manufacturers started cutting corners to increase horsepower. The biggest villain in modern trucking is a part called the Bosch CP4 high-pressure fuel pump. This pump was used in Ford Power Strokes from 2011 to 2019 and GM Duramax engines from 2011 to 2016. This pump works by using a metal roller riding on a metal cam. It relies on the diesel fuel itself to lubricate the metal. In Europe, diesel fuel has high lubricity. It's oily. In America, we have ultra-low sulfur diesel. It is dry. It lacks lubrication. Because our fuel is dry, the metal roller starts to grind against the cam. It creates microscopic metal shavings. These shavings don't just stay in the pump, they are sent under extreme pressure to every single fuel injector in the engine. This is called contaminating the fuel system. When this happens, you cannot just replace the pump. You have to replace the fuel rails, the fuel lines, the drop tank, and all 8 injectors. The repair bill is often over $10,000. GM and Ford have moved away from this pump in newer years, but Ram just switched to the CP4 in 2019 for the Cummins. Buying a truck with a CP4 pump is like playing Russian roulette with your bank account. Now, I know what the comments section is going to say. Just delete it, cut off the emissions, and tune it. 10 years ago, that was the answer. You could remove the DPF and EGR, tune the computer, and have a reliable truck. But in 2025, that is illegal. The EPA has cracked down on delete tuners with millions of dollars in fines. Shops are terrified to touch these trucks. If you get caught, the fines are astronomical. And even if you do delete it yourself, you can never trade the truck in. A dealership cannot legally accept a deleted truck on trade. You destroy the resale value. You are stuck owning a vehicle that is technically illegal to drive on public roads. The delete loophole is closed. You have to live with the factory reliability, which is terrible. Let's talk about money. People buy diesel because they think they will save money on fuel. It gets better MPG, they say. That is true. A diesel might get 18 MPG while a gas truck gets 12 MPG. But do the math. A diesel oil change requires 13 to 15 quarts of specialized oil and expensive filters. It costs $150. A gas truck costs $50. You have to change fuel filters every 15,000 miles. That's another $100. You have to buy DEF fluid every few thousand miles. And the biggest cost? The engine itself. The diesel option on a new Ford or Ram costs $10,000 to $12,000 extra up front. You would have to drive 250,000 miles just to break even on the fuel savings to cover that initial $10,000 cost. Unless you are hotshot trucking and driving 50,000 miles a year, a diesel makes zero financial sense. It is a vanity purchase. If you absolutely must buy a diesel truck, you need to navigate a minefield. You need to avoid the CP4 years. You need to avoid the early emissions years. I compiled a specific list of the exact model years of the Power Stroke, Cummins, and Duramax that are safe to buy and which ones will bankrupt you. It's in the 2025 used car blacklist. I also included the specific gas trucks that are better alternatives. Download the guide at the link in the description. It costs less than a gallon of DEF fluid, and it will save you from a $10,000 mistake. So, if diesel is dead, what do you buy? The manufacturers realize their mistake. They have started building massive, heavy-duty gas engines again. The king of this new era is the Ford 7.3-liter Godzilla V8. This is an old-school, push-rod, cast-iron block V8. No turbos, no direct injection, no DPF, no DEF, no complex emissions. It makes 430 horsepower and 485 pound-feet of torque. GM has the 6.6-liter gas V8. Again, simple, strong, and cheap to fix. These engines can tow 15,000 to 18,000 pounds. That is more than enough for your boat, your camper, or your construction trailer. And if the engine blows up, a new gas V8 costs $4,000. A new diesel engine costs $15,000. The smart money is buying the 7.3-liter Godzilla and running it for 300,000 miles maintenance-free. If you simply must have a diesel because you tow 30,000 pounds, there is only one other option. You have to go back in time. You need to buy a pre-emissions truck. This means anything built before 2007.5. The 5.9-liter Cummins, built from 2003 to 2007, the LBZ Duramax, built from 2006 to 2007, the 7.3-liter Power Stroke, built from 1999 to 2003. These trucks are currently appreciating in value. A clean LBZ Duramax can sell for $35,000 with 200,000 miles. Why? Because businesses know these are the last trucks that actually work. They don't have DPFs, they don't have DEF, they just run. If you can find a rust-free one, buy it. It is better than a 2025 model in every single way that matters. The era of the reliable modern diesel is over. The EPA killed it. Don't be the victim who buys a shiny new truck for the status and ends up with a $10,000 fuel system repair. Buy a big gas V8 or buy a classic pre-emissions diesel. Everything in the middle is a trap. And speaking of trucks, there is one specific mid-sized truck that is scamming buyers right now with a 4-cylinder engine. Watch this video to see why the new Tacoma is a ripoff.